Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, December 27th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Cotton Bowl game against Missouri in just 2 days. The game against Michigan in 339 days. We just wrapped up our first full day on the ground in Dallas for the Cotton Bowl, and we got to see a little bit of Ohio State practice. We got to see a little bit of Missouri practice. We got to talk to the Ohio State defense. We got to talk to the Missouri offense. There's a whole lot to talk about coming out of the day. We talked about a bunch of it on the Buckeye Weekly live episode that aired on, what day is it? Tuesday afternoon. I'm already lost. It's fine. So we're going to try not to step on too much of the stuff from that show, because that was like close to an hour of content, especially focused on the Buckeyes. But I did want to touch on a little, just sort of the big news of the day, Kevin, which is, joined by Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com. We're all professionals here. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. The big news of the day, Kevin, Marvin Harrison not practicing, presumably not playing, which is, it's big news, except it's kind of news we sort of anticipated. But I think maybe the bigger news is, boy, it sure looks like a whole lot of other guys that were sort of up in the air are practicing as if they're going to play.
Exactly, and that was the thing. We were all talking before they let us in to see practice. It's like, all right, this is our list. We have to see, and we went right down the list, and we found everybody, and they were all out there practicing. Some guys were not maybe moving as quickly as others, but you don't go out there a couple days before and go through the motions just not to play at this point. Obviously, we do remember Chris Olave, but that was a very much kind of a one-off type of situation. So I think that Ohio State really is going to go into this game almost with all of its weapons. Yeah, and a couple of guys who were maybe a little bit more iffy. Tommy Eichenberg was out there doing some stuff, but not necessarily all. He was sort of off to the side a little bit at one point, so maybe keep an eye on him. Cade Stover was getting a little bit of extra attention at one point. Maybe keep an eye on him. But, Mike Hall, Tyleik Williams, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, they were all out there. So that was all, I think, probably very encouraging news for Ohio State fans. Going to make this a very interesting game to watch, because I think 3 weeks ago I was thinking, boy, they might have 5, 6 opt-outs. They might have 1, 2 opt-outs. Just not that many. So that's going to be a very interesting game. We got to watch a bunch of practice. And they were just, little bits and pieces. Not, you didn't get to watch 11 on 11 or anything like that. Were you down at the receivers? Did you watch Brandon Inniss at all? No, I made it over there, but I was so busy making sure I sprayed everything, because we get 2 periods and stretching. And while we get to see so little practice, I want to make sure I get as many things out there that I can. So I'm just like getting everything. Yeah, Brandon Inniss had in the little bit of practice we got to watch, Brandon Inniss had a nice day. Carnell Tate had a nice day, and Denzel Burke talked about Carnell Tate. Denzel Burke is a very, very honest guy, and will give you, he does not just give you the happy talk about everyone. And, said Brandon Inniss still has some more work to do before he's ready to be that dude. Man, oh man. So when he's willing to say that about someone like Brandon Inniss, and he's willing to say, that about Jeremiah Smith, who's coming in next year, and other guys, when he says Carnell Tate is that dude, that is pretty intriguing to me. It makes me think maybe this is going to be the Carnell Tate breakout game this week. Well, let's not forget, let's go back to the beginning of the season when Marvin Harrison talks up Carnell Tate and says that Carnell Tate is further along now than he was going into not into his freshman season, but into his sophomore season. Yeah. So there is a lot of praise for Carnell Tate, and I had the opportunity to see a decent amount of his high school film when he was at IMG Academy, and he's somebody that I think that really could be that breakout guy. We all want to talk about who is going to be the breakout guy for Ohio State potentially in a game where they're going to be almost everybody coming back, we seem to believe. And Carnell Tate is that guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, he seems like he might be sort of the next guy in that line. And, you go back a couple of years, and the Rose Bowl end of the true freshman year for Marvin Harrison, 3 touchdowns. That was his sort of breakout game. It feels like, I'm certainly not expecting 3 touchdowns from Carnell Tate, but if he puts together a nice game and sort of becomes, okay, here's the next guy up, that would not be a surprise. The depth of that Ohio State wide receiver room, because, Emeka Egbuka is practicing. So, is Emeka Egbuka back next year? That's an interesting question that it feels like the answer is trending in a positive direction for Ohio State. But you got Emeka Egbuka, you got all these talented young receivers. You just had Julian Fleming, who was the #1 overall player in his recruiting class by at least one service, transfer out because he just was not getting the ball as much as he probably wanted to. They have also, there are a couple guys at Missouri who are sort of part of that conversation as well. Mookie Cooper, who had been at Ohio State for 1 year, transferred out, now is a really effective weapon for Missouri. And Luther Burton, who is a 5-star receiver who you got a chance to talk to and who ended up choosing Missouri over Ohio State.
Right, and Ohio State certainly made its pitch, and Luther listened to a point, but he saw how deep and talented the room was. And he was quick to say, I wasn't scared, but, I was able, he's a St. Louis guy. He was able to stay home, and everybody wants to land every kid out there, but do you really lose your mind when you see somebody stay home? No, Luther Burton stayed home and had a much easier path to the field and has just really blown up. Had huge numbers, more than 1,300 yards receiving. He's just, big time, but it's a shame that Marvin Harrison Jr. is likely not playing because, and I talked to the Missouri receivers about this, can you just imagine with Harrison Jr. and Burton and Weiss and Egbuka, and the list goes on and on and on. And we talk about how, so many offenses have really become more run first in a lot of ways. Well, this Katie bar the door. This could have been awesome.
Yeah, and I think you got a pretty good chance that this is still going to be a pretty interesting and explosive passing game. We'll see. The Ohio State has a new quarterback. Devon Brown was repping, not unsurprisingly. Devon Brown was repping with the 1s. Lincoln Keenholz with the 2s. So as expected, as we've been told, it's going to be Devon Brown's game. And we were asked on the Buckeye Weekly live show, is this like the Devon Brown audition game? And I don't think it's the Devon Brown audition game because the coaches have obviously seen a lot more of Devon Brown than the fan base has, or even than we have. But it feels like this might be like the Devon Brown first impression game for the fan base in a lot of ways. And I don't think this is going to be this one game determines whether Ohio State pursues another quarterback in the portal or not. But this is obviously a real opportunity for Devon Brown he's not going to win the job for 2024 necessarily, but maybe to at least take a step forward from the rest of the group.
Yeah, and I think this could also be the Devon Brown overreaction game because if he comes, yeah, I know, right? And there ain't no action like overreaction. And if Devon Brown comes out and tears it up, the critics of Cal McCord will come out. It's like, see, I told you. Even though, it's not exactly apples to apples at that point or anything like that. If Devon Brown comes out and he struggles in this game, I think you're going to see the overreaction too of why didn't Ohio State, make a bigger push on Cam Ward? There's still a name with Will Howard out of K-State being linked to Ohio State by some people. There's a lot that could come out of this, but I don't think that it is a one-game audition or per se. If he comes out and does really well, it doesn't change the fact that Ohio State only has 3 scholarship quarterbacks with him, Keenholz, and Aaron Noland for next season. And if he comes out and he doesn't do well, I don't think you're suddenly going to see Ohio State announce picking up a transfer frontline quarterback in the next 24 hours. But Ohio State's probably going to have to pick somebody up regardless. It's just a matter of, is it a front line? Is it we're going out to get a Justin Fields type, or is it more of a situation of, we're going out to get, a backup, a Tristan Gebbia type?
Yeah, and so far it seems like the inclination is that they're leaning towards the bring in a backup, but it may depend on who's available, and it may depend on a little bit on what things look like on Friday night. But again, I think the coaches have seen a lot more of Devon Brown, and the reports out of practice have been very positive this month for the most part. So I think that's encouraging on the Ohio State side of things. On the Missouri side of things, got a chance to talk to Brady Cook a little bit. He's Missouri's starting quarterback. This is a really big deal, this game for him. He talked about the fact that the last time Missouri was in the Cotton Bowl was 10 years ago, and his family had a big party because Missouri was in the Cotton Bowl, and he would never have imagined 10 years later, there he is as the starting quarterback for Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. So this is a very big deal, and this is a very, very big deal in terms of a lot of guys who are trying to bring in a lot of tickets are, I think, at a premium for Missouri folks. You talked to Josh Proctor. Tickets at a little bit of a premium for him as well. Right,
and let's remember he's from the state of Oklahoma, from the Tulsa area. 6th year. We know that this is his final game as a collegiate player. The league is ahead. He's going to have 22 people here, and probably could have even done more if more tickets were going to be available to him. Hasn't really had an opportunity to play this close to home in a large part being based in Ohio, but he's very excited about this opportunity. Has so many fond memories of a very up and down Ohio State career, but hoping to go out with that big win in front of so many friends and family.
And it has been an up and down career for him. It started on this meteoric trajectory, and then it just kind of fizzled for a while. And he had an injury, and then he lost his starting job in 2022. But he's really made the most of his final season. It took a while, but it feels like he has sort of turned into the player that they thought they were going to get years and years earlier.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, if he has that type of season earlier, that type of career earlier, we're not talking about him here in year 6 because he's gone at that point. So sometimes things happen for a reason, and we don't necessarily know everybody's business. And Jim Knowles, Ohio State defensive coordinator, alluded to the fact that there have been some ups and downs in his life, and didn't want to get into that. And we asked Josh about that. Very delicately, and he's like, nothing I really want to get into. I'm somebody who holds everything in. I don't really want to, I don't really like to share a lot about myself. But, he wouldn't do anything any different in terms of what his Ohio State career is. And one other thing, too, that we had a good laugh about is he was talking about the state of recruiting today and everything. Is that, man, I missed all of that with the NIL and everything else and the inducements. Yep. That's crazy, but, I'm still happy with, how I went through this.
Yeah, so he will have the final game of his career on Friday as a Buckeye. A lot of potential for first, impactful game, first, notable game for several guys on the team. But, man, there's going to be more players taking part in this game than we probably thought among the Buckeye veterans and starters. So we will be here all week in the lead up to the game. We'll be back at AT&T Stadium on a little later on today, talking to the Buckeye offense. We'll get to watch another little bit of Ohio State practice. So we'll have more coverage there. We'll have more coverage of more live shows for you. Make sure you are on our huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We've been putting all sorts of content there, all sorts of video and insight and analysis and notes and news and all that kind of stuff from the game. So that's all members only at BuckeyeHuddle.com. You can also follow us on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Hit that bell so you get notified, because we're going to be turning a lot of content there as well this week. YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. And finally, if you like to listen to podcasts, well, we've got a bunch of them. You can find them all by searching Buckeye Huddle wherever you find your podcasts. Make sure you're subscribed to all those. Leave us a 5-star rating and review as well. That helps other folks find those shows. And we'll hopefully be earning that 5-star review from you at some point this week. So that'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.